Okay, Moors. I want to ask that everyone who is able to please rise and face the east as we recite the Moorish American prayer. We stand facing the east with our heels together, similar to the brother on the screen, but we're holding up our arms perpendicular with 2 fingers on the right and 5 on the left. And repeat after me. Allah,
Allah,
Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation,
and my salvation,
by night and by day,
by night and by day,
through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
through Ali.
through Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam. All right. Excuse me. I want to announce that this meeting is now open. This is the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple 30, Columbus, Ohio. First and foremost, I always want to rise and give the highest of praise to our Creator, our Sustainer, our Father, God, Allah. I extend honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate. I extend honors also to the forerunner to the prophet, a modern day John the Baptist, and that's our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I extend honors to the Moorish and the American flags, and also honors to the Charter and its 10 wonders. I extend honors also to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh, appointed by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and that is our dear brother E. Millie Ill. I extend honors to all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America and all faithful Muslims who are attending this holy day meeting with us. I extend honors also to the office of the Supreme Grand Sheikh and office of the Supreme Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam, Brother Jackson Bey, would you please read our divine constitution and bylaws?
Islam Grand Sheikh. I rise giving all praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet Drew Ali, honors to the forefathers and foremothers, and honors to the Asiatic nations and the Muslims all over the world. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and partial of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5, this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you're entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims.
Islam and gratitude, brother Kobe. Would you please read our writs?
Islam, Grand Sheikh, I rise and give perfect praise to the great God Allah. Rise, give honor to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Rise, give honor to the forerunner Marcus, Zayed Garvey, Harvey. Rise, give honor to all the Moors. I rise, give honors to all the council, all the members, and every Moor on the planet, and all Islamic people. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is instructions from your Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful to your father, your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Drew Ali, and that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards and your pens. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or ridicule, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cardin button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right. The temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation. They claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out about me from the government officials and the nations of the earth,
Islam and gratitude, brother. Sister Lachey L, would you please read our additional laws?
Islam. I rise to give all praise to the great Father God Allah. I give honors to the holy prophet Noble Jew Ali. Honors to Marcus Messiah Garvey, the forerunner of the prophet, and honors to all faithful Muslims on the call and all Muslims around the world. Questionary and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all business. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the prophet or the grand sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their EDEP meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid. And if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish uplifting funds, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I would have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we're to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm itself to the questionary. And let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of the said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings to become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Islam. Happy Holy Day, Muslims.
Islam and happy holy day to all the Moors here. I want to say gratitude to you, Sister Lashe L, for reading our additional laws. Let's go ahead and just jump into things. Today, we're going to be speaking on chapter 25 in our Holy Quran. Chapter 25 is the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation. And today's topic is, speaking about this Holy Covenant, what it actually is, and why we must come into the Holy Covenant for our earthly and divine salvation. And we can't forget that Islam is where our earthly and divine salvation is. The Prophet brought this to us for a reason. So please, Moors, if you're able to, take notes. Everything that we're going to cover today is for a specific reason. I hopefully, this will make sense to everyone, and will give us all a stronger understanding of who we are as Moorish Americans, why we do what we do, and how this earthly and divine salvation works for us. So, as I said, we're in chapter 25. Now, we've been going over these chapters. We're doing chapter 25 last for a reason, but as you can see on the screen, this is just a breakdown of the chapters, how they're organized. Some of the chapters 20 through 35, and it's saying chapters 20 through 24 dealing with family values, right? This is now for the Muslims who have been here, who are members of the temple, you already understand the importance of this, right? Even though there's a lot of people who claim to be Moors and they don't think none of this matters, we can just be Negro Moors and do the stuff that we always do, but we just claim to have an El or Bay. We just claim to be Moors, but we have the same characteristics, the same habits. All of that stuff is getting erased. And by us coming into our holy and divine covenant, it's not some make-believe thing. It's not really some mystical thing that, oh, you come into this invisible, magical covenant and it saves you, right? This covenant, in many ways, these are laws and rules that get us in alignment with our higher self, and they're practical. They make sense. When you see the chapters 20 to 24 on family values, it makes sense. It makes sense why we must have these values in our lives, in our families, especially when the media and everything else is trying to destroy that stuff, wipe it out. Then, as we've been going over the last few weeks, 25 through, it says 29 here, but I'll say 25 through 30, dealing with the foundations of our community, whether it's the small community, whether it's the neighborhood, the town, the city, our states, our nation as a whole. These are the foundations for our community, whether we're talking about the macrocosm or the microcosm, right? The great or the large. I mean, the great or the small, doesn't matter. These are the foundations. Then we have codes of conduct, which I would say is 31 through 35. You could say 30 through 35. So we've been going over these. We started at 26. We're going to go to the first one, which is chapter 25, dealing with the divine covenant of the Asiatic nations. Wanted to do that last because we want to cover the structure of that. Like how do we come into that covenant before we talk about, who it affects, or what, how it affects us. So when we were going over these chapters, if you remember, these community foundations, right? This is giving us our saving power, right? This is letting us do the actions and practices, everyday practices that keep us safe from harm, that keep us out of the traps that are set up to, to ruin our lives, to make things more difficult for us. So just saying, it's a very practical thing, right? And so like we started with chapter 26, which was holy instructions of unity. And it's unity, of thought. It was dealing with unity of thought. with our own higher self. And it's teaching us how to maintain it through communication, right? This flow of knowledge, and not just earthly knowledge, but earthly and divine knowledge, right? Between the wise and the ignorant for the benefit of all, right? Not just for the wise to rule over everyone else. And we need this. Why? Because in this society that we live in, you have the wise or the pretended wise that rule over everyone else. They put poison in the water, poison in the food, even poison in the sky to rule over us, to shorten our lives, they put, fluoride in the water to calcify your pineal gland. They're doing all of this stuff to rule over you. And so this is why anymore whoever opens their mouth to say anything about, I'm not with that religion. I don't need that religion. I'm not with all this church stuff. Man, they don't know how bad they look. They have no idea how foolish, how ignorant they look. Right? We want to undo this. We don't want to carry on this same mindset that we've learned from the pale-skinned nations of Europe. We've learned this for generations now. We don't want to have communities where we're trying to rule over, the wise are trying to rule over everyone else, right? Trying to dominate everyone else, poison everyone else, right? And then you have chapter 27, which is dealing with the different economic classes, dealing with the rich and the poor. It's holy unity of the rich and the poor. So this is giving us instructions, once again, which is in alignment with the holy instructions of unity, because, the economic conditions that we're all dealing with, right? This is keeping us in one with our relationship with Allah, regardless of what station in life you have at that moment, right? Because Allah is the one that dispenses. Allah is the one that is the source of our happiness, right? So 27 is getting us in alignment so that we're not carrying this stuff on again. 28 was going over the relationship between master and servant, which in today's terms would be employer and employee, right? So we don't want to have the same, once again, situation. We don't want to copy and paste that, put it over here where, like, you have in places like my hometown, Toledo, got pretty much wiped out by the auto industry because they had a lot of Asiatic people that moved to Toledo and Detroit, places like that, for opportunity. They're working in the factories, they're building the car parts, they're able to take care of their families and have a good life, getting houses and everything. And then boom, they took all those jobs. They sent them to Mexico. Why? Because it was cheaper, and because the masters or whatever, the employers, right, were breaking themselves off, giving themselves huge bonuses and things of that nature. They didn't want to do what was fair and right. They didn't care about the employees and all of these people's lives that they were going to destroy. And so they bankrupted these cities, right? All over. It's not just here. It's Gary, Indiana, Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland, all of these places, right? So we don't want to just carry on that same mentality into this new society, this new civilization that we want to create. That's why, once again, and this is a part of our religion, showing us how to do it. This is how we come into the divine covenant. You can't leave it out. That's why I'm saying anymore that I'm not with that church stuff. I'm not with all that. Man, they don't know. They have no idea. It's like, well, that means you are with Rome. You are with Rome. We're going to show that today, though. Not going to take up too much of your time, but we are going to show that today, right? Chapter 30, dealing with our social, our civic duties, right? And the social duties, those are the actions that are taken by us that benefit the whole entire community. It's on us because we understand that all of the protections, all of the things that the pleasures that we have in life, they're secured through the assistance of others within the bands of society, a community. So we have to appreciate this and understand this, have this, this higher understanding of our place in society, because we've been marginalized. We've been pushed to the side. So a lot of us don't even want to participate. We don't even care. I ain't trying to do none of that, right? you know, throwing trash on the ground. We're doing all types of stuff because we don't care. We've been broken as a people. So the prophet came to take care of those conditions, right? So no, you can't toss it to the side. No, you can't. I'm a mourn now. I found out about how horrible it is to be black, you know, to be African Americans. I'm a mourn. Okay, good. So you're in the right place now. You're in the temple. So now come in and get these divine instructions because we all have work to do on ourselves. If you don't think that that matters, that means you're trying to take a nigga into heaven. You're trying to bring a, you know, a person who's a slave to their lower self into something that's greater, you know, and that's terrible. That is despicable. None of us should want to do that, right? So going back to this, we're going back to chapter 25 now. After we discussed all of these conditions, these duties, these social duties and things that we have to each other, and how to conduct ourselves within our society, within our Islamic nation state. Because once we do these things, now we understand how our holy covenant actually works. It's not some mystical, invisible thing. We know how it works. It works by us working because Allah is in us. Allah is moving and working through us. We're not looking out, you know, not saying that each one of us is in, you know, controlling the whole universe. No, just saying we're not looking outside of ourselves, you know, for salvation, for any of that, right? We now move together as a unit. We have these ties that bind us to each other, that create these common goals that allow us to work together to accomplish, you know, whatever goals we have for ourselves, right? And so we're coming into the holy covenant of the Asiatic nation, and that is the sacred oath that binds Moorish Americans together into a brotherhood, into a sisterhood, a community, into a ummah, a nation of people, right? And so it ain't just about just talk and just say, oh yeah, I'm a more now, I'm a nation. Like, no. So this is what a lot of people are missing, because the majority of people now that are claiming to be Moors is beautiful, is wonderful. They were waking up, because it ain't like people are trying to teach us this and tell us this. So it's beautiful that it's happening, but we still, a lot of us or most of us still aren't ready to leave that Negro, nigga mentality behind. Not ready. They're not trying to. They're trying to bring that into the nation, which is horrible. None of us should stand for it, but also we have to show the way with love, right? And we also have to show the way by doing the work on ourselves, which is the hardest part, to actually come in and live the life and to take this seriously. So that's why we're here, Moors. That's why this is not a joke for us. That's why if anybody has any questions about, well, I'm a Moor now, what do I do? I'm going to say go to the temple, because you have to get this Islam. There ain't no other way around it, right? There's no other way around it, because this Islam ain't what you've been exposed to in religion. It ain't like going to church, and it definitely ain't like what the Arabs and people like that are practicing. This is for our earthly and divine salvation, right? So this is for us to come in. And just going back into this, once again, coming into that holy covenant, right? Our earthly and divine salvation is in Islam. All right. So the Moors, they don't think they need a religion. They way off base. Right. And then some of the ones, especially people, and this is important to remember, especially people like us who are aware or want to, identify as Moors. They feel that they're Moors, right? Whether they realize it or not, they disrespecting the prophet without openly disrespecting them when they claim that they don't need Islam or they don't want Islamism. They don't need that. And usually the Moors that say that stuff are the ones that need it the most. Why? Because they're speaking from lower self. That's Satan, devil, dragon, and beast speaking for whoever it is, whoever's name it is. Like if I'm saying that stuff, that's Satan, devil, dragon, and beast speaking for Lord. Straight up and down. Right? And when you come in, when you grasp and get a greater understanding on this, you know that why would we even want to build a nation without cleaning ourselves up? What kind of communities will we build? With this mentality that we have as a whole, as Black people, African Americans, what kind of communities are we going to build?
You came down. Hell no. I'm hungry though.
You know, what kind of communities do we have right now? Right. So we're just going to be continuing what we've learned so far up until now from the pale skinned nations of Europe. So that's why the prophet addressed this already. What did the prophet say regarding this? He already addressed this. If you go to chapter 48 in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, he already addressed that mentality. You know, I don't need this Islam. I don't need this. Right. Okay. So that means you just as is, you good enough. You don't need to do no work. And you trying to bring that mentality that you already have into this nation that we're working to build. So when the prophet addressed this, chapter 48, you look at verses 6 through 8. He said, we as a clean and pure nation, clean and pure, right? We are a pure nation. We're a real nation of people. We're not just some mixed up, jumbled up people put together. We're a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of Africa. Africa for us is, our conception of or understanding of Africa is far different from the rest of the world, because we understand that Africa extended over here into the Americas, right? So we know that Africa actually comprised most of the world, right? Just saying that, just letting you know that. But we do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the salvation of redemption and salvation of mankind on earth, right? So giving us that understanding of who we truly are, no, we're not trying to go up under anyone else, right? Of course not. What I do. Okay. Let me open this back up. So, understanding our true nature, who we are now, but not just paying it lip service. So knowing this, that we're a clean and pure nation, right? We're not trying to amalgamate, marry into the families of the pale skinned nations, neither serve the gods of their religion. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. We're going to hit on that. It was specifically for their earthly salvation so that they could come up, so that they could start getting what they seeked out for themselves, right? While we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. It takes care of the earthly and the divine. You will hear Moors, you will even hear astute Moors who are considered leaders try to say, oh, yeah, that didn't cover everything. Like the prophet didn't cover everything. But he said we are returning to Islam for our earthly and divine salvation. That brings us into the covenant of the great God Allah. He covered it all. So business, social needs, all of those things are covered by Islam for us, because we are not practicing what anyone else is practicing, right? The prophet returned this to us for our earthly and divine salvation. The prophet hit on our social and economic needs several times, right? He made this a part of our religion, literally, right? Let's go to the Moorish literature briefly. So when we're looking in our Moorish literature, right? Hang on a second, Moors. Pardon self. So when we're looking in the Moorish literature, we get an idea of what the prophet is actually bringing us. He's truly taking care of our earthly and divine needs. He's hitting on our social and economic needs, and he lets it be known that this is a part of our religion, empowering ourselves, right? Like there's no way to leave this out of who we are as Moorish Americans, which means even opening businesses. This is something that we're commanded to do by our creator, Allah. It's a part of our religion, right? So when the prophet is saying, oh, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong thing. When we look in the Moorish leaders, historical message to the nation, right? The prophet is coming right out and letting it be known that for us, from our perspective, the creating of businesses is of the utmost importance for us as Moorish Americans, and that the preaching of economic security is by no means as widespread as it needs to be. So that's literally from our holy books, because everything from the prophet for us is law. This is letting it be known that, hey, we need to open these businesses under the temple as the prophet instructed us to do, right? Which also brings them into protections because it's being done under our religion, which also is taking it out of Rome, out of the secular realm where everything's being taxed and getting hit up by Rome. It's bringing it out of that. So the prophet had a lot to say about these conditions. He said the problems of life are largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they are moral and spiritual. That's in Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. We go to Drew Ali in Time. Says Allah sent us a prophet and sent him in time with the holy message, which is divine. He came to let the Asiatics of America know they are of the ancient family of the Moors. His speech was to the Asiatics first. Why? Because they have been sinners since their departure from their forefathers' religion, right? He had to come to us first. It's not saying that it's not going to go to other people as well, but he came to us first for that reason, right? Oh, sinners, why don't you hear the soul of Islam ringing in your ears? The prophet has said that if I were you, I would get ready before you are made to do so. Now come and pick up your forefathers and mothers' ancient and divine creed, which carries your national name indeed. It will entitle you to your rights, which you have been denied, right? I'm going to cut this off, but that's from Drew Ali in Time. And going back to the Moorish Leaders' Historical Message, right? He truly covers our social, economic needs, our earthly needs as well. Just going in here to Moorish Leaders' Historical Message, it says, in conjunction with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. That's in connection with our religious aims and beliefs. The preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. No other thing is needed among us more at this time than greater economic power, better positions for our men and women, more business employment for our boys and girls, and bigger incomes that will follow our economic security. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities in life. Meaning, if we are not prosperous and bringing in, generating the finances that we need, we can't even truly realize our spiritual full potential because we're trying to survive. We got to look around, look over our heads. Is somebody trying to knock us over the head? And so the prophet is stressing this, which means this is a part of our religion. We must promote economic security. It's in connection with our religious aims and beliefs, right? This is a part of our religion. The prophet truly covered everything. You cannot leave this Islamism out. This Islam is for our earthly and divine salvation for real, right? And that's why he said, therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, right? It was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. So we have to return to this Islam for our earthly and divine salvation. That's how we reconnect with our forefathers, because we're not going into Islam as practiced by the pale-skinned Arabs, right? We're coming into something that for us is true and divine and straight to the point. And we shouldn't try to stay in the current state that we are as slaves to our lower self, because, just in general, thinking in general, something should tell us that things are not right as is, right? Like we not trying to cast aside our prophet and throw aside the Islam to create a community based off of the teachings of the lower self. And that's what I hear whenever I hear more say that, act like they don't need Islam, because it's like, if we saying that out loud physically, you might as well just be letting it be known that you follow the teachings of the lower self, right? Because something inside each and every one of us should be telling us that the current state of things is just inherently wrong, right? It's just like the Jay-Z song, Jay-Z, Beanie Siegel, and Scarface, the song "This Can't Be Life," right? And I'm not gonna put the lyrics up on the screen, but they just going on about the conditions they're in, right? Jay-Z talking about he's born in sewage, right? 3-time felons. He's surrounded by thugs, drugs, drug paraphernalia. And they're going on and on about the conditions of the community. And they're like, this can't be life. This can't be love. There's got to be more to this. This can't be us. We should all recognize that, right? We should all feel like that. And there's no reason on earth that we should want to take this into the hereafter. There's no reason we should want to take these conditions, this mentality that many of us have, into a Moorish nation, right? Because when you think about it, when you really look at it, Moors don't even realize that they're still Christians. And being Christians, not knocking the church, not knocking Christianity is all, because we understand, as our prophet gave to us, that Christianity was created by the European for their earthly salvation. So Moors that are Christians, that have this mentality, they don't realize that they support and promote our downfall. They support and promote our own downfall. And most of them don't even know it. Only a handful of them willingly do that. So most don't know that they're supporting this by being, having that Christian mentality. Even if they claim to be Moors, they're still Christians. It's in everything that they do, how they live, how they approach their life. Why? Because we are generations into the mind programming that was given to us by the European. We are generations in, and you can't just wake up, oh, I'm a Moor. I read some stuff online. I'm good. No, you're not. You are still a Christian slave, period. You never claimed who your creator is, did you? You never took the Shahada in the Moorish Temple of America where you claim that Allah is your God and then that you're going to submit to the will of Allah. You never did that. And since they never went through our holy and divine prophet's procedure for returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, right, and coming into our divine covenant with Allah, that means that they are still Christian slaves. And that procedure that the prophet created for us to return that, all of that back and to come into our own covenant, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a procedure. When you look at the definition of procedure, it's a noun. It's a process. It's a system for accomplishing something. So this procedure the prophet gave us, these divine instructions, this is a system that he gave us for accomplishing something. What is the goal that the prophet gave us to accomplish? Right? We're uplifting fallen humanity. And we're doing this for real. So it's not something that just takes place, it just happens overnight. When we look at Acts 6, it says, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders. We can't be an NBC, a Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian, right? But it's not just talking about those slave labels of Negro, black, and colored, or now African American. It's also the Europeans' customs, their culture, and their thought process. All of that went into Christianity because when they deemed us Christians, right, that was a title that was given to slaves by slaveholders. When they flipped that script on us, they deemed us Christian. We had to go through a process to become Christians because we had our own God. We had our own way of life. We had our own philosophy, our own way to look at the world. So if someone's coming to conquer you, they need you to see things through the perspective they want you to see it through. So we were given the perspective of us in an inferior position with the God outside of us, right? So this was given to slaves by slaveholders to enslave our mind and make us unfit to lead, unfit to rule, right? And that's exactly what's happened. And so people not realizing the wisdom of what the prophet brought to us, they're still running away from it. They're running away from it instead of embracing it, coming in, realizing that, hey, you didn't go through this process, this procedure that the prophet created. right? This system for accomplishing something. What is it accomplishing? Right? We're coming into our divine covenant, right? And it's, we're so unfit to lead, we're so unfit to rule that if we still have that mentality, it doesn't matter what we call ourselves. We can call ourselves Moors and all this and that, and decades will go by and we will have accomplished nothing. So it makes us unfit to lead and rule if we don't follow these divine instructions left by our prophet, right? And in our present state, we're so unfit to lead, we're so unfit to rule that we didn't even flee the church when we saw that these same KKK, members that were terrorizing our communities, showing up in churches across the nation, right? Burning the cross, after the lynchings and things that they did, the terror inflicted on us, burning the cross to let us know we had no sanctuary, burning that cross to let you know their God does not look out for you, right? This is a sacred symbol, right? This represents Jesus. Guess what? Jesus ain't on your side. You burning it. He ain't doing nothing. Our God don't look out for you. Terrorizing us, right? Mentally terrorizing, putting us in a inferior position. And our people didn't even flee the church. They didn't even say, hey, we need to get out of here. We need to come into our own. We can't be the same religion as these people. That makes no sense on earth. That we didn't, our people didn't leave. And that so they still, we still have this mentality, still suffering from this mentality. And even those that claim to be more still suffering from it, right? They need to come out. They have to. You have to take the Shahada. You have to go all the way in. You can't, as I was mentioning this in our last meeting or the previous holy day, you can't, straddle the fence. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It doesn't work like that, right? You have to come all the way in. There's no other way, right? There's no other way. They let us know, though, with those burning crosses that the God that they have does not look out for them. Why? Because the prophet told us that this church that they have is for their earthly salvation. And so if they saw fit that, hey, we need to punish them, we need to take their land, we need to kill them even, so that we can be successful, well, then that was allowed through their religion because that's what it was there for at the end of the day. And our own people don't realize how brainwashed they are. That's why I was saying even more, if they not in the temple, if they not trying to submit to the will of Allah every day, if they're not trying to work on themselves to be in their higher self instead of their lower self, they're demons, they're devils, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, and they work for the pale-skinned nations of Europe. And the even worse that they don't even realize it, right? Remember, gangsters wear the Jesus piece. Gangsters, right? Gangbangers even wear the Jesus piece. They show their alliance to the Jesuit order. That's who they work for. Most of them don't even realize it. Some of them might, and they don't even care. But most of them don't even realize it, right? Right, and that's why you got all the rappers. They all show their allegiance, who their allegiance is to, and then you can tell in the music because all they're talking about is committing crimes, selling drugs, killing black people, promoting gangs, right? This dude even promoting, being a blood, right? Literally. So they promote this stuff and they let you know they work for the Jesuit order. And then we have to come out of this, right? Moors never really commit, or the Moors that never really commit and go through the prophet's ritual, right? The procedure to remove the chains of slavery that prevent you from being mentally independent and able to truly look out for your own nation. Moors that don't go through this process the prophet created for us, they're still slaves. They're enemies of the state even, especially if they're claiming to be a Moor and acting like we don't need that temple. I'm going to go get over here with these bootleg Moors. We don't need the temple, right? So any of these Moors who are acting like this isn't important. When the prophet covered the economic, hey, we doing business under the temple. We're going to do all of that stuff to get the land and things that we need. But then also, we're not leaving out this spiritual part, right? Ain't no Moors that should be wearing a Jesus piece, right? No Moors should be committing any crimes. All of that stuff needs to be gone, because you can be Christian and all of that stuff and be doing these types of things, because there's so much hypocrisy in it, because it was created for the Europeans' earthly salvation. Has nothing to do with us at all. Nothing, right? So that's a serious conflict of interest then if you are more and you're not coming in. You got to come all the way in and commit. You can't leave out the prophet's procedure, right? So what something to truly uplift fallen humanity. Islam Moors. Looks like something just happened to the Mike. Can you Moors hear? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Islam. So we can't leave out the prophet's divine instructions. Going back into chapter 48, verse 9 through 11, the covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. Come all ye Asiatics and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, not the lies. We're not going to lie over here and tell you we're just going to do this, move this paperwork over here and do this, this and that, and pretend that everything's going to be great. No, we actually have to generate the finances we need. We need fundraisers. We need businesses. We need to get the land, and we need to get it for real so that it's secured, right? We need to get the deed. We need to do what everyone else does to build the things that we need, right? So this is the truth about your nationality and birthrights. Because you're not Negroes, learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations. We honor all the true and divine prophets. So this, once again, is being, with us being in chapter 25 through chapter 30 over the last couple of weeks, what we've really been doing is just showing how we conduct ourselves within our nation, something that the prophet deemed important for us, because he doesn't want us to try to just bring this mentality that we already have into our Asiatic nations, right? We're not trying to do that. We're not trying to bring this stuff in, because we're just going to be continuing the horrors that the pale-skinned nations of Europe have been inflicting upon the earth, because that's all we've been learning. And so now we're trying to do this for real. Now that's the real, work that we're doing with this uplifting of fallen humanity, right? So going into the holy covenant of the Asiatic nation, it's ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck, right? So even though we all come from different households, different families, right, we still have a common origin. That's being stated here and needs to be stated, because, you might think we're all mixed up. We from all these different places. We've been through hell. State that a lot of our people in right now, you can't even trust each other. One more thing too, this is why we have to get these divine instructions, because you can't just, oh, I'm a Moor, but you're not a Muslim. Because it's like, okay, say we start building communities right now. Are we able to leave our doors unlocked in Black communities? Is that a smart thing to do? Say you got to go out of town for a day or two or however long. You just leave your doors unlocked, because we're all neighbors. We're all, the children of one father. We have these bonds of affection, right, that unite us with each other. Hell no. Right? The communities, the way that we are right now is hell. It's hell on earth. No, there was a time, not even that long ago, not even 100 years ago, where you could, in some of our neighborhoods, leave the doors unlocked and we looked out for each other. But that's so long ago. Come on. That's not even realistic. So no, we can't come from here right now into building a nation unless we're going to follow these instructions and do the work on ourselves. Because no, we don't want these Asiatic communities with people who are, abusing children, doing horrible things, right? We don't want that. And there's plenty of people that look like us that's doing it. So that's what I'm saying. We have to do the work. This is why when it's saying, let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when you separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. These are instructions for us to internalize and make this real. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. So at this point in time, as Moorish Americans, if someone's claiming to be Moorish American, they're not a Muslim, they don't follow these divine is your neighbor. The only way these bonds of affection work is if we're all Moorish American Muslims. It doesn't just work because we're all black or whatever. It don't, and it won't, and it's not going to just change overnight. The only people we can actually trust is those of us who actually take this seriously, who are actually doing this work and actually take these divine instructions as law. All right. And if they don't, I would not leave my children around them if I was you. You would be a fool to do that. You can't trust these people out here. So this is why, for us, we take this seriously. This is why there is no Moorish American if you're not following these divine instructions. And if you don't look at this divine constitution from the prophet and take it seriously, where he's letting it know, hey, with us, this is where you proclaim your nationality. That's it. There ain't no other way to do it. And in Act 7, that all members have to promptly attend their meetings. We have to be part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. We have to pay dues and keep in line with the necessities. Then we are entitled to the name of faithful, right? And so if we're not entitled to the name of faithful, there is no bonds of affection that unite us to each other, because we can't trust him, right? So we got to come in and follow these divine instructions to make this real for us, so that we can build these communities that will make the rest of the world want to learn about this Islam that's being practiced by people who they've seen hit the lowest of lows. They've seen us, fall and be in our lowest state. They have to see the transformation. That's why we had to fall. The prophet came to the lowest people so that we could, when we rise to the highest heights, the whole entire world will take notice. And on that note, though, I'm just going to say, Islam Moors, if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to speak. I yield the floor. Islam.
Yeah, Islam Grand Sheik. So I had like about 3 questions, but my first question is in chapter 25, verse 3. And I noticed that the chapter says the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation. So I know that this book was written for us. So is it talking about all the Asiatic nations? So, and my question is, it says, so basically what I wanted to know, who is considered a stranger in verse 3? Was it just the European, or is there other people that are considered strangers? I was trying to get a better understanding of that. And with that, I give up the mic.
Islam. So that's a good question, because we do have the Asiatic nations right throughout the Americas, from here, North America, down through Central America, the Caribbean, and South America, right? And then other parts of the world as well. But the prophet, is specifically speaking to us. And the reason is just, it's in alignment with what I was reading earlier from the Moorish literature with Drew Ali in time, right? Let me just go over that briefly. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Let me just read a portion of this again. Allah has sent us a prophet and sent him in time with the holy message, which is divine. He came to the Asiatics of America to let the Asiatics of America know that they are the ancient family of Moors, the Moors. His speech was to the Asiatics first. Why? Because they have been sinners since their departure from their forefathers' religion, right? And so he said this, but then also it's mentioned pardon, I thought in here, I just read, I thought in here it was mentioned also that the other Asiatic nations, like plural. But he came to us first because of the conditions that we're in. And because once we fall and then rise, we can now take this message out to the rest of the world.
Oh, okay.
Right? We can take it to the other Asiatics. And even the, the Europeans, everyone can get the spiritual message, because like the stuff about having Negro, black, and colored put on it, obviously that ain't gonna fly. They like whatever, right? But they can still get the spiritual lessons. But he came to us first, and then to truly clean us up, so that when we are in power, we're not trying to turn around and hurt the Europeans or try to like, because it's like why would we do that? Everybody has suffered at some point in time due through sin, through not honoring the ways of their forefathers and foremothers. So we're not about that. But the prophet had to come to us first, because everybody else at least has their own culture. We went away from ours, and people took advantage of that, and created a label, a slave label for us, right? So he had to come to us first, and he came in time, as it says in here. He came right on time. He wasn't too early, because we still had further to fall. Back when the prophet came, there were still Asiatic communities where the children could play outside. You didn't have to worry about nothing crazy happening to them, because the other grown-ups would look out for them, right? Wasn't nobody trying to recruit them into gangs and stuff back then, and wasn't trying to like take advantage of them or hurt them. They were looking out for them. They didn't want to see other little Asiatic boys and girls getting hurt or taken advantage of. So the community looked out for each other. You could leave your doors unlocked, right? Not to say that maybe not in New York back in the 20s, but in the smaller communities, that's how it was, right? And so we still have further to fall. So he brought it. He showed us how it's done. He moved as a head of state, was recognized locally as a head of state, and even internationally when he went to the Pan American Conference. He was spoken of in the newspapers as President Ali, right? President of what? The Asiatic states of North America. He represented us, and he showed that it could be done. He gave us the steps on how to do it, and now it's on us to do it, because we still have further to fall, right? To the point where we're at now, where you see all this sexy red stuff and all that stupid mess. That's letting the world know that we done fell, because they take that stuff and they promote that stuff to the world, to even when you go to countries where people don't speak English, they see us in our lower state. They see us being ridiculous and ignorant. So when they see us doing the opposite, and so going back to what you said about the strangers, right?
Right.
Man, some of our own people are strangers. So not even talking about the other Asiatics, like the Jamaicans and people like that, nah, just in our own neighborhood, our own people are strangers. So we need to get our community tight first. Now, of course, if there's a way we can help each other, help our brothers, even if they don't identify as Moorish American, whatever, we can, right? But we need to get our communities tight first. These bonds of affection that bind us to each other, they're these divine instructions that's in this Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's not just we got this, we got similar skin complexion. That's not what binds us to each other. We have these divine instructions. We are Muslims. We submit to the will of Allah, right? We have a way of life. We have culture. Just like the thing that binds people to each other when they're from Ethiopia, when they're from Somalia, they come here. They have these bonds of affection. They have common culture. There's certain things that they should and shouldn't do. Now, if they've grown up here, they might have went away from that stuff, but they still know about it if their parents taught them, right? So when they come Here they have these bonds of affection that bind them to each other, even as they separate in the world. And so as Moorish Americans, that's why I'm saying with these people who want to claim more, they're not getting their butt in the temple. They're not trying to work on their lower self. They're Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. They're Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, man. Their lower self. So prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. Before we can love the whole world, right? We got to love ourselves. We got to hold to these divine instructions so that we can tighten up our community, make our community strong, so that we can start to, you know, when we have our towns, we start to have our villages and towns, you know, and maybe we're starting to get other entities coming trying to, you know, bribe us and get us to do things that's not for the greater good of the people, which is what happens in government all over the world, right? We able to tell them to kick rocks because we have divine instructions. We not down for whatever, right? These are the things that bind us to each other, to prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. What if you in a position, you're on, you know, a Moorish city council or mayor or something like that, and people's trying to come, you know, to do some things that's not really for the good of the people, but it's going to line your pockets. So we're supposed to have that's why we're going over these chapters, because we're supposed to have these morals and values that keep us from doing what everyone else is doing, selling out their own people, selling out the community. No, we remember these bonds of affection. That's more important to me than whatever you're trying to throw in my direction, right? We're doing the work on our lower self. We are a common community because we're all doing this same work. That's what binds us together. Islam.
And so my second question goes into in the same chapter, verse 5. So I believe they're talking about the first father. You know what I'm saying? The first father in flesh. So my question is like, could you give me like an example of some of the fortunes of our father that be used to the support of our whole race? As it says, so shall the fortunes of their father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care shall be continued to you all. And so what would be like an example of some of those fortunes?
All right, Islam. That's a real good question. So, you know, if we're looking at it from an earthly perspective, you know, the fortunes that we have, that we come into, you know, that we create, instead of it just being for you, your line, your children, right? It's for our whole race. It's for all Asiatics, because we're working from our higher principles. We're following the divine instructions that are in the later chapters, like the instructions in unity, the holy unity of the rich and poor. He looketh on his wealth with pleasure because it affordeth him the means to do good. He protecteth the poor that are injured. He suffereth not the mighty to oppress the weak, right? Like now, the things that we come into, the wealth, the prosperity that we come into, they contribute to everyone. They make the world a better place because we're actually operating off of our divine principles. And so, like, you know, we're actually flipping everything. We don't really have any earthly examples to copy from. We just have to follow our prophet. Because if we truly do this, like when the prophet actually spoke about Atlantis, like, if I'm not mistaken, either him or another more that attributed to him, but he spoke about Atlantis rising again, you know? So if we actually live off of these principles and follow these divine instructions for us personally, but also how we conduct ourselves and within our society, we changing everything, right? No one's done this before. So it's flipping everything. It's not just me. We doing it just for us, just for, you know, trust funds, you know. No, we actually are contributing to the greater good of the entire world.
Islam. And so my last question, I asked you a question similar to this a long time ago. So this question comes out of chapter 48, verse 6, where it says, we are as a clean and pure nation from the inhabitants of Africa, do not serve or amalgamate to the families of the pale-skinned nations, neither serve their gods of their religion. So what does it mean by gods? And it says like gods of their religion. Like, what's an example of some of the gods of their religion? Or what does that really mean? 'Cause I know that I know that we're considered gods, but I'm trying to figure out exactly what do they mean by that in that context. The gods of their religion.
Yeah, so that's once again letting it be known that we're following something that we don't even understand. We don't even really know what's going on. Like they're telling us that, Easter is, excuse me, the day that Jesus, rose from the grave. And then you finding out that that's really Ishtar, right? The fertility goddess. And that has nothing to do with this Jesus figure. Like all of that stuff was put together for their earthly salvation. They had to continue this Easter fertility celebration around March time because that's what the people in Europe were already practicing to the goddess Ishtar. And that's just one example. And so it just you or me as a regular Christian, we get Christianity from the European perspective. It's not like we getting Christianity from Ethiopia, right? We getting it from the European nations. And so we Presbyterian, we, Baptists and all this stuff. And we're not even understanding what these things are about. We don't know that when you're celebrating Easter, you're actually, venerating Ishtar and Zeus or whatever else is going on. These are for their gods, not even knocking it. It's just that it's not for us. These are the gods of their religion. And they had to implement it into Christianity because that was the only way they could get those different European tribes to come in and say, okay, yeah, we Christian. Like, okay, well, look, you don't have to give up Ishtar. You don't have to give up Zeus. This is Zeus. This is still Zeus. This is still Ishtar. This is still, all of these other guys that you have.
Oh, okay. That has something to do with Constantine. Okay, I got it now.
Yeah, and so we don't even know that. Some of us might, but we don't know. So we don't even know that there's multiple guys, even though they say it's the one guy. They got all this stuff going on that, it happened so long ago that even most of them don't know, right? This is how they got them all to come together as Christian. Like, okay, you can keep this God, you can keep those idols and gods and all of that stuff. We'll just, call it Christianity.
Okay, oh, that makes perfect sense now. I'm just thinking back to some other things that I studied too. Okay.
Yeah, and so that stuff had nothing to do with us. So yeah, we're not serving the gods of their religion. Why? Right? Our forefathers, if we honor them, we understand that they are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. So we don't need to follow what anyone else is doing. And the gods of their religion that we don't even understand. We don't even know that. At least if you're going to be a Christian, know where this stuff is actually coming from, right? Know what you're actually getting into, but we don't. And that's why we suffer. So we have to come out of it. And so that's what I'm saying, man. These Moors, it's not trying to come in a temple. I'm telling y'all, they Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. That's even worse than a regular so-called black person, an Asiatic that doesn't identify as a Moor or Moorish American, because at least they don't know. But the Moors know and they reject the prophet, right? Because they don't want to do any work on subduing their lower self. They're coming in for the wrong reasons. They're coming in because they have problems with their license. They want to be able to drive without a license. They're coming in because they think there's some quick fix that's going to turn their life around or get them out of trouble, right? And if we stupid and we act like that's not a problem, oh, y'all come on in here. Come on, bring this hell up in here. Y'all come on in. We don't have to work on ourselves. We don't have to act like we trying to be better. Like, man, that would be like letting a bunch of demons and stuff into whatever we're trying to build. Because they ain't trying to do this work. All they're gonna do is terrorize and tear things down. And so we have to be able to recognize that. When you see Moors that are in their lower self, you should be able to kindly, gently remind them of our divine instructions. And then whoever it is, whether it's me, whether it's you, we do that work on being better versions of ourselves. Right? But when you see Moors that have no disregard, complete disregard, for the prophet, for the divine instructions, leave them alone. Right? They should be cast out of the temple because they're here to destroy. Moors need to take it more seriously. Because if they're here to destroy, why are we allowing that to go? We're supposed to uphold and defend the prophet. Islam, I see you, brother Yabe. I yield the floor.
Islamism, Grand Sheik, arise to my highest heights, giving all perfect praises to our Father God Allah, giving all perfect praises to our noble prophet, noble Drew Ali. You actually you finished up, you answered the question, so it really was kind of pointless for me to talk after you answered the question. But I was just going to go and point that if people are in a lower self, the temple is for people to get out of their lower self, about their higher self. But you made an important point when you said that those that are informed that they're Moors and they reject the prophet, and they shouldn't be in it. So I got that point. Thank you for clarifying that for Islamism.
Islam, brother, because we can't look down on our own people. We know what we've been through, what we're still going through. And so, like, even though most of us might not see a problem, with the way that maybe that we conduct ourselves, just in general, just speaking about Asiatics that don't see themselves as Moors, if you explain things to them, as a Moorish American, explain how things are going on, there's something inside of each and every one of us that should be telling us that, hey, something's wrong, right? That's what I'm saying. Like that, this can't be life. Like there's something wrong with this, Like we're supposed to be able to trust each other. It's not supposed to be like this. Food shouldn't be poisoned. Like that is evil. Why is the food poison? Why do we have so much of this stuff to deal with? It's because the world's being ruled by Satan, the lower self. And so as we explain this and then, consistently do the work, people that are, a little bit interested, they should be able to get it. Because there's something in us that should, cut on, that should be like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But if somebody's in here and they know they're more, they know about the prophet, they might even be in leadership somehow, which should have never occurred. But they reject it. No, that is a straight up enemy. Because the prophet actually warned us about Moors like that. You'll see that in Caveat Emptor. And these are the Moors who ridicule the prophet to the lowest. They act like they don't need this. None of us should be sitting up here acting like we don't need this. Like we don't have to work on ourselves. So, we do have to defend and uphold the prophet and know when it's time to cut ties with people too. Because if you serve Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, right, instead of Allah, and you claim to be a Moorish American, that's a problem. This should make more sense than the lower self, the teachings of the lower self. Remember, those who were cast out of the holy city of Mecca, it wasn't just, the people who represented the lower self. It was also the people who followed their teachings, which means that, it wasn't just like the pale-skinned nations of Europe. It was also the Asiatics who followed their teachings, who went right along with it. They got cast out. You love Rome. Get your butt out there and do your things in Rome. Don't try to wear the fez and act like you're one of us, because all you're going to do is try to do things that make us all look like we're in a bad light when we're doing the work to do the opposite. So they have to be cast out. And you know why? Because in the Quran Questionary, it says the angels are the ones who protect the holy city of Mecca, right? And so, symbolically, that could be you, because symbolically, you could be the temple. Symbolically, that could be us. That could be each and every one of our communities. We have to protect it. We have to be the angels. What are angels used for? To carry messages to the four corners of the world, to all nations, right? Angels are thoughts of Allah manifested in human flesh. We're all thoughts of Allah manifested in human flesh. But an angel cannot be a slave to lower self, right? The angels actually, if you're looking at the definition of the angels, cannot, they have to go, or they have to serve Allah's will. They have to serve the higher self. They can't be slaves to lower self, right? So I'm just saying that just to say, just like in short, we have to be the angels that protect the holy city of Mecca. We have to be those angels. And that means that, yeah, okay, we're going to have to guard that holy city to keep the unbelievers away. And if these unbelievers claim to be more, I don't care what you claim to be, right? El or Bay, that don't matter. If you're an unbeliever, right? That's not even speaking about just regular Asiatics that don't claim to be Moors, because they're not really unbelievers. They don't know. The ones that claim to be Moors are even worse. They're unbelievers. They know about it and they reject it. So we have to cast them out. We have to protect, right? We have to uphold and defend the prophet. We can't keep letting them amongst the mix. They're not here to uplift. They're, what people would call agents. So, just keep that in mind, Moors. I'm not telling you what to think, but just in a practical way of looking at these divine instructions, like we have to guard this, right? We can't keep, allowing people to tear down what we're building up. Islam. So the people that represent the higher self, they have to protect it. And that's supposed to be us. Islam. And on that note, I yield the floor. If there's any other questions or comments, feel free to speak up, Morris. All right, I see the comments in the chat. Gratitude. I agree with you both. On that note, if there's no more questions, no comments, I want to announce without further ado, we're going to go into the closing of the meeting. Before we close out, I do want to put the call out there for those who have it in their heart to assist us in the great work of uplifting fallen humanity. Please do send a donation to the temple. You can always go to moorishamericans.com. You can just scroll down and use the donate button to send a donation to our temple. You can also use that to pay dues. If you go to the top, temple dues, and the donation button's on there at the bottom too, if you just want to send like a one-time donation. And that's at moorishamericans.com. And on that note, let's go ahead and read the divine warning, Morris. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens. that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know the law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body. All men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal. Since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disease, etc. And I, the prophet, do hear and believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with the divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet. All right, Islam Moors. Also, just before we close, we'll put that call out there. If there's anyone who's ready to join and proclaim their nationality, make sure you reach out to us. Go to MoorishAmericans.com. Use the contact button on there to contact us, or use the phone number to call us. Everything's on MoorishAmericans.com. And let's go ahead and close out, Moors. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you are able to, please stand and face the east. If not, you're good, Morris. I'm going to go ahead and close out. You do not need to repeat after me. Allah bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed, and principles. We ask this in thy holy name, in the seven Elohim. Amen. Peace and love, Moors, on this holy day. This meeting is now adjourned.
Islam, peace and love. Happy Holy Day.
Happy holiday.
Peace and love. Happy Holy Day.
Islam, happy holiday.